Come on in, come on in. How are you tonight? So glad to have you with me tonight on another installment of The Best Investment. Tonight is another special night, so welcome in. Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to have my friend on tonight, my sister friend Rashida, and so I'm gonna bring her in tonight and I'll do my introduction right after we bring her in. So let's hold on and see her come on in. Hello. All right. Hey, let's see. Okay. Let's see if we can bring her on in here. Let's try this again. Okay. Here we go.
Hello.
Hello. Hi,
I'm
sister.
over
How
here
are you?
trying to make sure my curls are doing what they need to do. Okay. Hello. Hello.
I
Hello.
know.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am doing good. How are you?
I am
I'm uh,
wonderful. I
I'm playing
certainly.
with my little ring light.
Oh, that's okay, girl. I don't even know where mine is. I just use the regular light. I don't even know what I look like. I'm just like, I'm here. So, thank you so much for joining. Before we get started, just want to give you all just some background. So, for those of you who are joining me for the first time, don't know who I am, my name is Mona-Lee Belizaire. I'm a personal growth strategist, and I specialize in helping women move from where they are to where they want to be. I'm also the creator of the I Am Choosing Me movement, which is a movement dedicated to encouraging women to choose themselves in every area of their lives. So, tonight you're on for my weekly segment, The Best Investment. And for the month of December, I'm doing a Leap series. So for the past 2 weeks and tonight, I have guest speakers, my friends, people who have been instrumental in my life, just been there, that I know they've had their own leap journey. And so tonight, I'm so excited to have my sister friend Rashida Darden here with me tonight to talk about her own leap story. And everybody has a leap story. So last week we had on Stephanie Kilson Thomas from KT Travel and More. So you can look her up on Instagram, KT Travel and More. Talk about her leap from working in corporate America to, leaping into her own, being an entrepreneur. And the first week, we had Miguel Melbourne talk about his opportunity to be a part of a radio program, to host a radio program, something that was never in his purview. And so God always has plans. As a Jamaican, they always say, man a plan, God a wife. So that means we are always planning, and God is like, nope, I got something. Nope, I got something else. And so I'm so excited to have Rashida on tonight to talk to us about her own leap story, which was very
Whew.
woo, right? Interesting to say the least. But
I'm still leaping. I'm still
right,
leaping.
you're still leaping, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that as well too. So before we jump into the thick of it, I want people to know who Rashida is. So tell us a little bit about Rashida. Who are you?
I am a person who likes to live life and enjoy, I work hard. I think I play harder, but I really like to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm an auntie, all these things. But really, I purposely wanted to start, by saying something about me, not necessarily all these titles that I
Yes,
hold or these roles that I play. So I'm really somebody that works hard, plays hard. Um, I love sisterhood. I love community. We'll talk about joy and rain and what that means,
hmm
and this blog I started later. But I'm really passionate about women's health. If you saw my bio, and really just passionate about sharing my motherhood journey with the world. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
that's good. And you summed that up really, well. And I love what you said that you're still leaping. And I love that you also mentioned that you introduced yourself not by your titles, but something you really want to do. And that's something, as women, we certainly would have to do better at, because the first thing we write love is I'm a wife, I'm a mom. I'm a community activist, I'm a this, I'm a that, but it doesn't speak to who we are as,
Hmm.
as individuals. So we're here to talk about your leap story. So I want to jump right into it. I want to leap right into it, for lack of a better term. So talk to us about your leap story, which is moving from Maryland to California for your husband's job. And talk to me, and we'll go get into a little bit about it, but just talk to me about that whole entire process. And we'll ask some additional specific questions, but start there.
Okay. I'm just making sure you can still hear me because I put my
I
phone on the
can.
stand. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I am in California, in Southern California. We made this leap about 2 months ago. So my husband actually accepted a position in California back in late April. And we just moved in October because obviously it was a lot to process. It was a lot that went into the acceptance, more so for me. I'll be very honest. I was just scrolling to see if he was on here. Normally he stalks me on when I go live on IG, but I'm not sure if he's on because he's working. But it was an acceptance process for me, which I think we'll get into later. But
Mhm.
one of the things that my husband says to me all the time is like, he's somebody who was born and raised on the West Coast. So he's like, at some point I should have expected to
Mm.
relocate to the West Coast. Me, living this, and I'll just get a little bit of background. So, I'm born and raised in Connecticut. My family moved to Atlanta when I was in high school. Shortly after college, I moved to Philly, went to grad school in Philly, and then I moved to the DC area in 2008. So I had been living my best single life, at least for many years, in Maryland. So I was
Mhm.
very comfortable, to say the least, in Maryland. I met my husband back in 2014, but even up until that point, I was living a single, dating, just carefree life in DC. But I had roots there. I bought property there, so I was very comfortable. And as we started dating, eventually, I got pregnant. He relocated from the West Coast to Maryland, and we had been there together for about 5 years.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that came up, I have a therapist. I'm not ashamed to say I have a therapist. One of the things that came up as I even spoke to my therapist about this, and one of the questions she asked me was, do you feel obligated to make this move? And
Mhm.
it took me, like, we revisited that several times in therapy because I was like, when you think about the word obligation, to me, it has like a negative undertone, right? I'm
Mhm. Mhm.
obligated to do this. Not necessarily when we're talking about the Lord, because
Right.
commitments to God and obligations and obedience to me kind of go hand in hand. But that word, like, do you feel like this is mandatory or you're obligated to go? And, I had to really process that because there's no shame in saying, I do feel like I need to go and I need to do this. He
Mhm.
moved here for me 5 years ago. So what is
Yeah.
holding me here, to the point where I can't take the leap and move across country now that he has an opportunity that will bring him here? And you got to be very careful about what you say because probably 3 years ago, yeah, maybe about 3 years ago, we loosely talked about moving. And he had
Mm.
these dreams of moving to California. Okay, he is a man of manifestation, I believe. But
Mhm.
he had these dreams of moving to California, and I said, well, if you want to move to California so bad, find a job that's going to bring us there, or find an
Woo,
opportunity.
honey. And your
Here
words
we
carry weight
are.
too. So.
So I do believe speaking, manifesting, I do believe manifesting is real, but the power of the tongue is also very real, and what you
Absolutely.
say can come to fruition. That's why positive thoughts should always outweigh your negative thoughts. But he spoke it. He spoke it and made it happen. So when he got the offer, and trust me, this is a man. I see my sister on. She can vouch for this. This is a man who is, I call him a serial interviewer because he can get a job. Okay, so he will
Mhm.
apply, and keep going. He'll get a job, and he made it happen. So I couldn't even be upset because I literally said it out of my mouth. Well, if you want to
Yeah.
do it, make it happen, and here we are.
Yep. Stephanie said, "Oh, you spoke that thing into existence."
Right,
Your own words carried that weight.
right,
So you
right.
talked a little bit about going to therapy, that this move being a part of that process. How did you know it was time to, how do you know it
I
was
didn't
time?
know.
Well, let me back up first. What was the decision process like for you? Because I think, I know when I said the question, I said it differently, but I think the decision process and then you knowing when it was time, probably the decision process happened before you knew it was time. So talk to me a little bit about the decision process. And at what point did you know, okay, Rashida, you're gonna have
You
to
out
go,
of
girl.
here.
Yeah.
So it when he got the offer, so there I know there are people on that probably remember me like being very just nervous when he
Mm-hmm.
was even interviewing. And you know when an interview is going well. They invite you
Yep.
back for a second interview. You're
Mm-hmm.
interviewing with
Yep.
higher level people.
Yep.
You're interviewing with panelists. And so that was kind of the track that he was on. And, something in me said, he's going to get this job.
Mm.
Even though deep down, I didn't want it to happen. I'm gonna be very honest. I was like, oh God, if he gets this job, then we really seriously have to think about moving.
Right.
Um,
Lord, I don't want to say this, but what if you don't get the job?
yeah, I was like, yeah, that was my own selfish, my for my own comfortable reasons. I
Mhm.
I was not praying against him because I knew how bad he wanted it, and I actually helped
Yeah.
him prepare, and I knew he was prepared.
Yeah.
Like we went through mock interviews, we went through questions, we went through all of that. So I knew I was like, he's gonna get the job. It was just to
Yeah.
me, it was just a matter of time. So the time came, they made the offer. We asked them for a week. Sorry, my little one's home, so I'm trying to distract her. We
Yeah,
asked
that's
them for we asked them for a week so we could pray about it. I asked him initially, like, did you pray about this acceptance? Are you sure this is what you want to do? But then we prayed about it together.
that's
Um,
good.
and everything that I kept getting from God was like, I'm doing a new thing.
Mm.
It's time to leave your comfortable place. There was nothing. Um, there was nothing. So when you say, when did you know it was time? I think it wasn't necessarily when I knew it was time. It was I got to a point where I had to accept it. Like
Accepted.
I mentally needed to accept the fact that we're moving, we're relocating. And for a while I really, really fought that acceptance piece. Um it was something that I had to accept, but that we prayed about and felt like this was a good move, a good change for us. But it was more so me being one, not saying wanting to stay stuck, but wanting to be in the same place. When you're
Right.
comfortable and you're used to where things are and who you hang out with, and everything about the city and your neighborhood, there's a peace and a comfort that comes
Yeah.
with that. Nobody likes change, especially change that you're not prepared for or planning for. And it's like I knew he was applying, I knew he was interviewing, but as he started getting deeper in the process for this particular position, I was like, it's going to happen, but
Yeah.
he got the offer late April, and we still didn't move until October because there was so much that we needed to do and figure out just to even make the move happen. And my
And
acceptance, it took a couple of months. It took a
yeah,
couple of
and that
months.
was
I'll be honest.
that's real because I was on, the other side when my husband Richard had to move from Florida to Maryland. And I was like, TikTok, I don't understand, hey Reagan. You can come on in.
Tell Megan,
That's okay. We understand. We're all here.
go get
We're all
Leche.
family.
I gotta bribe
Yeah.
her with this.
So yeah,
She's gonna
so
raid the snack cabinet, but I should have given her a snack before we hopped on.
that's all right. That's okay.
Mona-Lee.
And it's one of those things where you're trying to navigate all the things that are happening. So the move is one thing. You have girls, you know, it's a lot going on. Your job, his job, he's excited. You're like, I don't know. So I experienced the same thing too. It took my husband probably about 3 years, I think, to sort of like wrap his head around because all his whole life, his entire life was Florida.
Right.
In South Florida, everybody he knows there. We went to school there. We got married there. Like, majority of our lives were there. So, it is a lot. And I certainly do, acknowledge that. And I think the good thing, when you talked earlier about your decision making process was that you knew it was time. So there wasn't a specific moment because sometimes we're waiting, especially when we're praying to God, and not to say that God does not give us answers, but there's sometimes God is just like, daughter, you already know the answer. So there's nothing more I can tell you. You just know.
Let me tell you what I got from God. Behold, I do a new thing. I, I
He just gave
That's
me the
it.
whole idea,
That's
right?
it.
Isaiah 14, he said.
That's it. Behold, I do a new thing. And I literally started seeing that scripture like everywhere. So
That's what,
it came to a
so,
point where I just had to accept it. I just had to
yeah.
accept that we're moving and whatever. Like, there's still so many unknowns for me personally right
Hmm.
now that to me it's like it was a trust walk. It's a faith walk. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that, yes, my husband's job is secure and great, but there's a lot of things that are still in progress for me
Right.
in
Because
the
there's
newness.
still, and sometimes I don't know if it's a misconception, but people may feel, women may feel when they get married, especially with a move like that, you somewhat, depending on how you were raised, you feel, as you mentioned, obligated to move in the direction of, he got the job, I gotta go, this is what we're doing. And then so a lot of times we don't process our own feelings, or we don't really say, you know what? I don't want to move. I'm gonna move, but I don't want to move. Like
Right.
today, my husband asked me, "Will you take me to the airport?" I'm like, I don't really want to take you to the airport, but I'm gonna take you to the airport. But I want to
Right.
take you, and that's real. Because I'm like, brother, now you knew you had to go to the airport. Why you didn't say nothing this whole time?
Right.
Right? So I mean, but that's the reality of it and our journey, especially in marriage. And and it's not compromising, but it's really negotiation, because it's negotiating, because compromise makes it such a one side thing. But
Mm-hmm.
it's hard also, in the same sense, to see, okay, well, where does Rashida fit in all of this? And some people be like, well, no, that's your husband. But at the same time, I am an individual as well, too. So I
Right.
want to get into that a little bit. How have you been processing this leap, and what has life looked like for you, for your family? I mean, I know Jay's excited. He probably, skipped to work every day.
If he could, he would. If it was, it's close. His job is close, but it's not, close enough where he could. But if he could skip down the street, he would. He's
He'll be frolicking,
ecstatic.
huh?
He's ecstatic to be here. For me, and it's funny, I've had several friends in the last 2 weeks, especially, ask, like, how do you like it? How's it
Mhm.
going? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that yet, because to be fair, I want to give it enough time to say, we tried this.
Mhm.
This is great, or we like it, or we want to go to another area. So I want to be very fair in giving the newness a shot. I don't know what's in store for me work wise. I don't know what's in store for me with some personal things that I started. One being my motherhood blog. Being in a new area does have a lot of opportunity for you to kind of branch out and meet some new
Yeah.
people
Mhm.
and do some different things with some of the ideas that you have. So I'm really just trusting God in this season for what's next. It doesn't help that I just turned 40, so I'm also going through sort of a midlife. I won't call
You
it a
got it,
midlife
girl.
crisis, a midlife motivation to really self-assess and think about,
Mhm.
the things that I want to do, the things that make me happy. Because the last thing I want to do is be somewhere or be in a position where I'm just unhappy.
Yeah.
And I will
Mhm.
say the beautiful thing about California is the weather. I mean, it's gorgeous out here, and that's just a mood booster in itself. So I'm
I
really just
know.
trying to accept where I am in this season, and trust that God has some great things in store for me, um,
Mhm.
which have not all been revealed yet. And one of the things
Yeah.
I'll just mention this. One of the things I prayed hard about before I left is, God, please just give me a new job. Before I just give me a new job. I just
Mm.
really want to be in something new before I get there. And literally, like, a week or two before I left, God said, "You're not gonna have a new job
Mm.
before you get there." I was like, okay.
So what you say, Lord, I'm not
So
gonna get no promised land.
so
So
at
you're
this
gonna send me
point,
from Egypt to California and
right?
ain't going.
So at this point, but the bigger picture, I say that, lightly, but the bigger picture is like is me just trusting God in this season for like kind of how I started. There's just a lot of unknowns, but there's like somebody put in the comments, this is a lot of new beginnings, not just for me, but for my children, for our family. And even one of my line sisters told me before I moved, you shouldn't be anxious for anything, because what you really need you already have, which is your
Yeah,
family, and you have God. So that has really resonated with me in the move. It's like you don't have to worry about things, because what you have, like basically you have your support system with you, and
yeah,
you have God.
everything I
So
need.
you really don't have to worry yourself about the little things.
So I want to just take a step back, and I think that's good, because the Bible says, I mean, all up and down, where God has created things for us in such a way that we're not to worry, we're not to toil. I'm of the firm belief that we're not supposed to toil. I do believe in working. I'm a hard worker. I'm Jamaican, so I don't know anything else at this point. But, so there's some things that God has already set up for us so that we are, as long as we're prepared, because there are things that we have to do, and as long as we're well positioned, so that means we are where we're supposed to be, then He's already going to take care of everything else. But talk a little bit, I want us to, go back a little bit about what your conversations were like with God. Because I know when I talk to God, I'd be like, respectfully, Daddy. I don't like this. Like that's all we talking. That's what the God in pot was sometimes, because I'm like, I don't know how else to get it out to you to let you know how I feel, even though I already know. So talk to us a little bit about those real conversations that you have with God, because I think it's important for somebody who's making any type of leap in their life, whether they're leaping from a 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship, or they're leaping concerning a move, or they're trying to figure out what their leap is going to be like. They know there's something. We really want to understand what those type of real conversations look like. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So my conversations were rough. Um, Lots of tears. I'll just be very honest. Lots of tears, lots of late night prayers, lots of resistance. Um,
Hmm.
it's one thing to pray the cute prayer of like, God, you protect me and cover my family. That's one thing. But when it's like this is to me, this is a major life change that
Yeah.
I was not excited about. So you can imagine the tension in my household with
Hmm.
my husband just being, I mean, basically doing cartwheels around the house, and me just being like, Lord, why? Why? And God didn't reveal to me why. So I had lots
Yeah.
of prayer sessions of like, once I accepted it, though, I will say my prayers changed. Um,
Mm.
my prayers changed to like, Lord, just help me to prepare for this move. Help to guide me in everything I need to do. Help, lay the foundation for my girls. We had a lot of moving pieces during the transition,
Right.
stopping so we could see my family. So there were lots of moving parts. So my prayers really transitioned to once I accepted it. Um, I think that was really key in my prayer, because I was probably walking around just sad for no reason. And thank God I was reading a devotional every day that helped me to really just write and journal and reflect. I was also, I have a therapist that I see regularly, so she
Hmm.
was helping me process, um, just finding things that are joyful, even when we got here, to look forward to. So
Yes.
that
Hmm.
was a part of the process too, of like, don't just focus on the negative. And I know you're praying your way through this, but I really had the breakthrough in prayer when it was like, okay, I've accepted that we're moving. Now we got stuff to do so that this move can logistically happen. And so my
Right.
prayer was just about, about smooth transition, about covering us. We had lots of travel, safe travel. So it really, like, the breakthrough was really once I accepted it, because I probably caused myself, I will share that devotional, B. It's amazing. But that devotional I was reading daily, and it was allowing me to really reflect my thoughts and then process those thoughts with my therapist, who is, a believer, a Christian therapist. So
Is that
Um,
the devotional by Marshawn
yes,
Evans?
that
Mhm.
I've been
Yeah,
reading for like the last year. But look,
great
I'm on my
devotional.
own. I'm on my own timeline. I'm not comparing myself to nobody.
And it's worth a
But that
repeat.
diversion,
It's
it
worth a
is.
repeat.
It is. It's worth the read, and you can, and it allows you to reflect on your thoughts and breaks it up. So you have a section on obedience. You have a section on blessing blockers, and you can really block your blessings going to bed grudgingly or praying. I think praying these grudging prayers. Like I was just angry and upset before I
Mm.
accepted it. I was angry and upset just over the decision when God is like, behold, I do a new thing. So you can keep wasting your time and spending your energy, being upset about something, but I'm doing something new in your life. So where I'm at now is just really trying to trust God in this season of newness.
That's good. And I'm glad you mentioned that, trusting God. So I want to dig deep a little bit into that because, I mean, a lot of people, most of us, for those of us who are believers, we trust God. But I just posted the devotional, the name
Oh
of the
yes.
devotional. So a lot of times, we trust God, and sometimes we think we trust God until something happens, and then we're like, yo, I really don't trust God.
Right.
Not as I thought it was. So what I mean, you could talk about what that looks like for you, but what was helpful for you in terms of when you were understanding, figuring out, trusting God with this process?
Honestly, I think the devotional and journaling my thoughts was
Mm.
most helpful because it allowed me. I mean, I recently went back to some of those pages that were
Mm.
around the time where we had made the decision. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do. So I reverted back to some of those, like, man, that, like somebody put in the comments, anger will get you. To
Mm.
me, I think it's a blessing blocker. So if anybody has the devotional or gets the devotional, one of the things I think you'll love is that it's broken up into sections that really help you focus on. I'm gonna steal your words, Mona-Lee, where you are to kind of where you need to be.
Need to be.
But it really kind of walks you through. The whole book is about believing something bigger for yourself, and I believe one of the I can't I'm not going to try and quote the scripture on that page, but I believe one of the sections is about staying in places that are comfortable for
Mm.
for us, whether
Yep.
it be a job, a location, and relationships, but staying in places that feel good but necessarily aren't good for you. So
Yes.
um, to me, that was probably the biggest thing that helped. And I started journaling just anyway. I think during the pandemic, I started journaling my thoughts more just in general. It became like a way of stress relief, which is one of the reasons why I started the blog. Um, but that devotional really just helped me kind of start my day, process my thoughts, and then just kind of work through. So and this is why, a lot of people say you should journal is because then you have this written record and you can go back and look
Yes.
and
And look
see
at
either how much you've grown. If you have a prayer journal, you can see what you were praying about. You can see how your prayers have come to fruition. So I really believe in the power of just journaling and allowing yourself a way to kind of release what you are thinking about,
Mhm.
and to a certain extent releasing that into the form of prayer so that you can move forward.
Yep. And Jessica said it's easy to say you trust until you really gotta trust. And the one thing that I really love and appreciate about our Father is that He's a multifaceted God. So while He's working on the move, He's working on your heart as well. And so, when you really have to trust God, it brings up some things. And it's not so that they can be additional things that you have to think about, but it's more so of things that God is like, okay, you're doing this move, but because of this situation, because of this move, I have the opportunity to bring to you some things that are in your heart. So I know for me, in this season that I'm in, one of the things that I realized is that I was like, I have a spirit of offense. I was like, I'm the least offended person in the world. And God was like, no, you're not. You have a spirit of offense sometimes. And I was like, okay. And so, like but the thing about it is that, and you talked a lot about this, right? It's even if you're not sure, the
Mhm.
willingness to even go there because God can work with that. Like in the Old Testament, with with Moses was like, listen, these are some stiff-necked people.
Mm-hmm.
Stiff-necked people, like their neck is stiff. Like you can't do nothing with them. And that's, when you're hard-hearted, um, and like you talk about, sometimes we block our own blessings, right? Because we're not willing to know, we're not willing to find out, we're not willing to take the step. And because of that, we don't allow God to even deal with some of the other areas in our hearts where he's like, okay, this gives me an opportunity to show you, okay, this is something you need to work on. So it could have been, for some of us, you don't trust me as much. For some of us, you know, I need you to focus on me a little bit more. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that's one thing I love about leap stories and having the opportunity to step into the new or step into the stir, is because we don't know what's going to happen, but it gives God an opportunity to, like, we have to give God something to work with. Like, I mean, if you've been a believer for any long time, you already know. I mean, if you heard about the Lord, he's not going to be dragging you. It may be a knockdown drag out, but it's very few and far in between. Like,
Right.
and don't have a Jonah experience. You find yourself someplace you have no business being. But I want to talk about now where you are. So you've already moved, you're in this place, you've already taken the leap, but you said that you're continuing to leap. So talk a little bit about what has been required of you now since you've made the leap decision, the decision to leap. So now that you're in this space, what has been required of you, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, mentally, what has been required of you?
Yeah, so I say I'm still leaping because I'm still adjusting. Um
Mhm.
and to a certain extent my kids are still adjusting. This environment is very different.
Yeah,
Um time zone is one thing, but just, what they see, the type of school that they go to, my daughter's in an immersion school. It's just a very different environment.
yeah.
Um, so for me though, and I know I've told you this in the past, Mona-Lee, for a while I have felt in my spirit um, the need to move away from distractions.
Mm,
And this is exactly this is exactly where I am. I am away from, not to say that people and friendships, because it's funny. I met somebody here in the grocery store, and I must just look like I'm not from here because people just start talking to me all the time. But I had 3 people invite me to church in one week. So something is radiating from me that is like
yeah.
she's new here, or she's not from here, or something. But I had someone mention to me, once I mentioned that I had moved here from Maryland, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, where it snows and it's so cold." She was like, "What are you grieving about that move?" And I was like, she was like, "It can't be weather." And I was like, "It's people." So while I do miss people, and
Yeah.
it's people, it's relationships, it's
Hmm.
comfort. I miss the
Yeah.
comfort of knowing knowing my surroundings, having my favorite hairdresser, my favorite waxer, all of that, all of the
Hmm.
things that
Hmm.
we seek out in terms of services. I had all of that, and I am starting fresh with
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm still in a sense adjusting, but I'm also really talking to God about what's next. Um,
Mm.
one of the things, a very good friend of mine said to me was like, and my job is like a whole nother situation. I'm on a temporary, remote situation. I don't know if it will be approved permanently, which is like that was a big deal for me before we moved. So again, back
Yeah.
to trusting God in this season. I don't know if I'll have a job after January, February when offices return. I don't know. I'm on a temporary remote assignment right now. So that's another leap in itself, because there is
Yeah.
comfort in the stability of knowing that, okay, I have my check, but
Mm-hmm.
like I was told, my job basically is in Maryland. um so that's one thing. But then, what I'm praying about daily is just, what I was going to say was, I have a really good friend who said, man, I know, if you had more time, you could really probably just implement all of these ideas. I have tons of ideas and things that I've
Mm-hmm.
been praying about from a business perspective. I don't know if my route is entrepreneur. I'm not going to block that if that's what God has for me, but I've been just really just taking the time to really pray about what's next for me. Like, who do I look like in this season in California in my 40s, who
Yeah.
what does that mean for me? And so I'm really
Mm.
just taking the time to pray about that daily. And I do feel like when the time is right, God will deliver. I mean, God will speak to me about what's next. Like he told me straight up, you're not gonna have a new job before you move. And guess what? I didn't. Um, so yeah, I'm just trying to pray about the next step, because I do have lots of ideas that for many reasons we'll put some of the ideas we have on the back burner, but I'm really just trying to be present in this season, and really praying about what's next.
Yeah, and you said something about God moving you away from the distractions. I think it's always important to steal away. And Jesus did it several times. Like he would get away, he would get up early in the morning to go pray. He would, steal away from the people and the disciples, because there's sometimes in your life where you just need to be still. You
Mm-hmm.
need to stop everything that you're doing, because um, busyness is such a terrible distract. It's so distracting, and we feel like, when we're
And that was
busy,
me.
right? We're busy, we're being productive, and we're not being productive at all. And so we're stretched in so many different ways. And then when that happens, we don't really get to dedicate the time to God, to family, to the things that really matter, and we lose what it means to prioritize. And so, you turn around and you get to the end of the year and you're looking at yourself and you're like, well, what did I really do? What did I really get an opportunity to do? And so it's important for us to steal away. And I would encourage, and I didn't do this. I did it one time last year, and I actually should have done it this year, but did not do it. But I over the summer last year, I just drove up to Delaware. I'm in Maryland. I drove to Delaware, and I just spent a weekend in a hotel by myself, and I just enjoyed myself. I just did nothing. And my husband, who's an extrovert, like off the scale, he was like, "Who's gonna do that? How why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Cause I really truly love being by myself. I am a homebody at heart, so I think that's why it's easy for me
Yeah.
to do things. But it's important for us as women, just as people, to steal away. So even and God is the type of person. If you don't choose to steal away with Him, or just choose to focus on the things that He's called you to focus on, oh, He'll make a way for you, honey.
Mm-hmm.
It
And
will
I
it will
and,
for you.
and that's why, like, I know many people have said the pandemic allowed us all to slow down. At
Yeah.
least, especially in the early stages, we didn't have a choice. So you had to sit and be at home, and really, I mean, it was great for somebody like me who is queen busy or always somewhere. But I think I've
Mm-hmm.
learned, especially as I've gotten older, is like there is a time for fun, and there is a time where you got to focus, and really just get stuff done. So that be still is very real, and that time away. I didn't do it this year, but I will be doing it in 2022. But last year I did, like you, Mona-Lee, I did take
Yes.
a
I
weekend
remember
at
you
a
went to
hotel.
the
Yeah, I did it for my birthday, and it was the best thing ever. But it allowed me to just be still, reflect, be in the moment, and spend time, focusing on me. Which for
good.
all the moms on here, we know that is hard. It's hard to do at times. I tell
It's
people all the
hard.
time, I really don't know what I was doing before I became a parent, because now I'm still trying to do the things I want to do and parent two little ones. So
Yeah, but you have to, and this is certainly not within, the general discussion, but it's important to talk about. It's something that you have to create in your
hmm
time, and you have to create in your life. Because I remember when Nathaniel was a little bit younger, he's 15 now, so things are much easier for me. And it does get easier over time, right? So I just
hmm
want to encourage you all that have younger children. It does get easier over time. Like people are like, "Oh my God, you get to leave him alone at home." Bless the Lord. He liveth to see that. Okay? I liveth to see it. Um, but it's one of those things where you have to create, because I used to be that mom that was just like, nobody can watch, like I have to be with him, or I have to know where he is, or he can only be with a certain amount of, type of people. While my husband, who's a true latchkey kid, y'all just really gotta meet my husband. Sometimes I talk about, I mean, if you leave it up to Nate would have been walking to school at 5, home by himself by 6. And I'm just like, oh no, we can't do
yeah.
that. But there was something, I mean, it's obviously how he was raised too, but it's something to be said of that where you fully understand that you can't do it all. And sometimes you have to take um, the restraints off your own self because you are preventing your own self sometime from being still, from having rest. And doing that too, being fearful, anxious. It's saying that you don't trust God.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't outright say it, but that's what you're saying as well. And so I think it's important for us to recognize that. So we take a step back and we use the support and resources that we have. So now that you're there, and I know you're still learning and trying to figure things out, but you've
Mm-hmm.
had the experience of moving cross country, from the East Coast to the West Coast, like they say in the song. So like you really had some of those song experience that they talk about. Um, what would you say to someone who is on the verge of taking their own leap, or they're trying to figure things out? So it could be, what would you say about doing that move with children, the whole process, how you process that whole thing? Like, what are some steps that you took that you feel will be beneficial for someone who is taking a leap in any area of their life, and even in this particular season?
Oh gosh. I did a lot. I did a lot. Um, I did a lot. But the first thing I would say to someone is don't waste time overthinking it.
Mhm.
While God gives us the gift of discernment, I believe God also opens doors that we don't know how, we don't know what's going to happen if we don't step into the
Mhm.
door. And so
Yeah.
for me, I feel like I wasted a lot of time being fearful, being anxious, being just worrying
Mhm.
about what could come, as opposed to just accepting and then like planning for what was ahead.
Mhm.
So my first one would just be, after you pray about it, just accept, start to plan and move forward. Trust God, and whatever this new season, this new door is that He's opening, because 9 times out of 10 He opened it for a reason. And I do believe, we have discernment to say yes and no to certain things, but I think when you pray about things, and God is giving you signs that this is the direction for you, you just got to trust
Mhm.
that and move forward.
Yep.
Um, just in terms of planning for the move with children, I mean, there was a lot of pre-planning. Obviously, we had bought a house recently. We had to sell a house. We had to find somewhere to stay
Yes.
here.
That was
Um,
another thing.
so
The
yeah, so
selling of the house.
the selling of the house.
You just bought. Like, how long were you in that house for?
Trust me, I asked God, and I was like, "We just bought this house. You want us to sell it?" We bought a house in June. I want to say summer 2020. Sold the house October 2021. Okay, so a little
Hmm.
over a year. But God is good. We
Yes,
had the
it
house on
is.
the
Yes,
market
it
for a
is.
week and a half. We had an offer. Um, so yeah, so I would say, there's a lot of planning that comes, especially with a cross country move. So we came out to California about 2 months before we moved. And so this was part of like even when my husband was offered the job, there still was a lot of lag time in between. One, because we need to figure out school for the kids, COVID. My youngest had just started going back to school, so we were trying to figure out how
Mhm.
that was going to go. Um, so we were, trying to look at areas, trying to look at schools, trying to find the right time to come visit so we could look at everything. But to do that, we need to be able to leave the kids at home with family or somebody. So the first time that we could even do that was August. So we knew we wouldn't be moving, and thankfully, the position he accepted, they were very flexible in terms of when you could move.
Okay.
And me and my anxiousness was like, well, let's just move in 2022. There's no need to rush it for this year. But we kind of made a decision at some point to just go ahead and move before at least the East Coast winter, and that's how we landed on October. But just in terms of planning with children, I was, obviously researching schools, researching the school district.
Mhm.
So for us, I mean, we mapped out a plan. So when we planned the trip to come out in August, we literally landed, got a rental car, we looked at schools the same day. We looked at schools, we
Mhm.
looked at places to live. I mean, consistently for a week. And by the end of that week, we had found the place that we're staying in now. And we had pretty much decided on a school for our youngest one. And then our oldest, she's just zoned to the school where we live. And so we just started the process to do the paperwork to get her in
Okay.
this immersion program. So I would say as much as you can, hindsight is 2020. But had we really thought about the fact that, we weren't in elementary school in Maryland, but just thinking about the school calendar, it would have been ideal for us to plan this move before school started. I think her adjustment
Mhm.
could have been a little bit smoother had we been able to go
Okay.
through orientation at the beginning of the school year. We're new to the school. It's COVID. You can't go in.
Yeah.
So one of the things, I shouldn't say that I regret, but one of the things I wish I would have planned for better was just meeting with the teacher she was assigned to at the school ahead of time, because they were just
Okay.
kind of like, oh, okay, she's enrolled, she's registered, she can start, but you can't come in because it's COVID, which of course sent if anybody watched my story around when
Mhm.
we first moved, I was I was stressed. It was very anxiety producing for me to have my baby, who's 4 years old. She was 4 at the time. She just turned 5, in an elementary school setting for the first time in a language immersion program where half of her day is in English, the other half is in Spanish. So even if they're giving you direction, it's in Spanish.
It's in Spanish.
So all
Mhm.
of this new, she's adjusting to the time zone. Even after we got here, we gave her a week, just no school, no nothing, just to kind of adjust and get a feel for the area
Yeah.
before she started school. But it was still a lot, and she's still adjusting to this environment.
Yeah.
Just into a school where 9 out of 10 of the kids in her class don't look like her.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's as much pre-planning I think as you can do. I That's what I recommend. Looking into the area. I knew the demographics we were moving into, which was another
Mhm.
cause for my concern. My husband not worried at all, but
You never
I
worry, girl.
right about nothing. But that comes with the challenges in itself. So I would just say, get as much information, meet as many people as you can. I mean, we got to see my youngest. We got to see her daycare ahead of time and met with teachers, so that was good. But
Mhm.
COVID just added another layer of a move that we just couldn't plan for. We got here, and we got here the second week in October. Our moving truck didn't get here until the last week in October. So just imagine being in a new space with no beds, with 2 small kids, in a new
Yeah.
area, and none of your personal belongings.
That's what, yeah. So
Trust.
yeah.
We got to trust that this truck didn't dump our stuff on the side of the highway. I heard horror stories about scams and
Wow.
things that moving companies do. So it was definitely, my husband said there's nothing we can do, Mr. Calm. There's nothing we can do. We have a contract that says they have to deliver at the latest date, and they delivered on the last date.
On the last date.
So there's God pruning me again of like, you here,
Trust.
be
Yep.
easy, and just trust that it's coming. So it was rough. October was rough, to say the least. It was rough, but we survived.
You made it. So, one more thing before we come to a close. So, you talked a lot about the process, someone would go through, if they were moving and also, but what advice would you give for someone for themselves, and then up and also someone who is in a relationship? What would that look like for them? What types of advice would you could give based on your own process?
For somebody moving just and having to make the decision with a partner, you
No, just,
mean?
just
Oh,
having
okay.
to take the leap. Like what would you advise for them for themselves? Like, what was helpful for you um when you were getting ready to take the leap?
I would say just be open. Be open
Mhm.
to the possibility of doing something new, doing something different. I think there's a lot to be said about stepping out from your comfort zone. This is something I have had to really learn and really just
Mhm.
pray my way through. But I really feel like if whether you're single and making this decision for yourself, or whether you're in a relationship, obviously, if you're in a relationship and you have a family, there's a lot of other factors that go into a move,
Yeah.
and where you're going to live, and
Mhm.
your cost of living and all of those things. But um, if you're thinking about the leap, I just say pray about it. Of course, pray about it first. But if the door and the opportunity presents itself, then take it.
Yeah.
Take it. Take heed and run towards what could be new. It's one of the things I often have to reflect on is You know, when I was living in Philly, I had no idea I never thought I would live in Maryland ever.
Mm-hmm.
I finished grad
Yeah.
school. I accepted a
See?
job, and I said yes to a job in Philly. And I got an email about. It was literally like somebody had sent me an email, and it was like something at the bottom of the email that said NIH is starting this fellowship program in DC. From that little hyperlink at the bottom of an email, I clicked on it and said, "Oh, DC, a fellowship in the government. Let me go see what it's about." Literally went to the information session and it changed my life. So
Mhm.
I have to remember, sometimes you have to think about how God has moved you in the past so that
Yes.
it reminds you of,
Yep.
you know, sometimes you don't expect the change, but the change could be the best thing that happened to you in your life. So
Absolutely.
I
And I
try to
can
reflect and remember those things.
yes, and I can sort of relate to that because that's similar to how my move was to Maryland because we wanted to move to Georgia so bad, but couldn't find any jobs. I mean, at that time, it was just no jobs. And
We
then the
looked there too.
opportunity for a fellowship showed up in Maryland and never would have thought. Maryland was never on my radar at all.
Mine either.
And so, to what you stated, we cannot be closed-minded, especially as believers. We have to be open to whatever it is um, God wants to do and whatever it is God is going to do because he's doing a new thing, right? And even in that verse, behold, I will do a new thing. The next line says, shall you not perceive it? So that means it is possible for God to be doing a new thing and we miss it. For God
Mm-hmm.
to be doing a new thing and we don't even
Yes.
know that he's doing a new thing. For whatever reason we don't know, we don't know. And so it's really important for us to always be open to whatever it is that God wants to do because we have to trust. We know that he's our heavenly father, right? And he has our best interest at heart. So there's nothing that he would bring us into that he has not already covered, that he has not already taken care of.
Amen.
Like in Deuteronomy it says that he looks over our land for the entire year. I don't know nobody who's cares for me for the entire year like beforehand. You know, my husband only cared for me day by day because marriage is day by day. Okay. And Nate, that's whenever he wants them. You know, when they get to a certain age, they don't check for you no more. You know, so they love you, but nobody is looking over your entire life for a whole entire
Right.
year, every year. So, it just really, I'm glad you shared that because that's a part of the new beginnings is so that God can be doing something and we miss it. So may we not miss anything that God is doing in our lives in
Right.
this season, at any point in time. May we be like the sons of Issachar that were able to discern the times and seasons so that Ecclesiastes says, there's a time and a season for everything. So
That's in my
everything that God
bathroom.
does,
That scripture is in
right?
my bathroom.
Right? There's a reason for it all. Like, God is not a wasteful God. So there's nothing that
Right.
he placed in scripture or placed in man's heart to say that is not purposeful and intentional. So I want to thank you so much. Do you have any last words that you want to share? And then after that, please tell our audience where we can find you and also talk a little bit about Joy and Rain. We didn't get a chance to do that. So I want to give you the opportunity to do that now.
Yeah. So my only parting word is just do it. Just take the
Mhm.
leap. Whatever your leap is, just do it.
Yeah. And I'll
It's
add
really
to that
like,
you already have everything. Basically, like what you said earlier. You
mm-hmm.
have everything. Like similar to what God said to Moses, what is in your hand? That means that we already have everything that we need. Forgot the scripture. It's one of my favorite scriptures. I should know it. But it says, having everything that you need at all times, you will abound in every good work. So whatever it is, especially if it's good work, hopefully it's
Just
good
do
work.
it. I'm
Just
pretty
do
sure
it.
we can almost guarantee it's probably good work. If it's something
Right.
that's birthing in you and your spirit,
Exactly. Yep.
just
If it's
do
new,
it.
especially
Just
if it's
do
gnawing
it.
at you. Absolutely.
Just do
Just do
it.
it. You have everything
I
that you need. And even if you don't feel like you have everything that you need, God will bring destiny helpers to give you everything that you need. So you may not know how to market, but I promise you, if you say market, right? Say the word market, all of a sudden you'll see an ad pop up.
right. But the beautiful thing
That may
about
be the algorithm, but that's
but
God more so than
right.
anything else.
the beautiful thing even about social media is you can find people in whatever it is that you want to do, right?
Hmm.
So whatever your leap is, I just say take the leap, because you can always find people to help you. Like you say, God provides help along the way. You can always find mentors in the space. You can find people who are doing it. And it doesn't matter how many people are doing whatever your ideas or whatever you think you
Yes,
want to do,
please
because
say that
nobody is
again.
you. You are
Nobody.
uniquely you. So you are bringing something to the space that doesn't exist, because we're all unique in our own right. So my parting words are just do it. Just
There you
take the
go.
leap.
Okay.
So yeah, where you can find me, Sheeta B is my personal page, but I am on here from Joy and Rain, which is my motherhood page. And so Joy and Rain is really just my motivation page. It came about during the pandemic as I was journaling my thoughts, as I mentioned earlier. But it's really about sharing my motherhood journey and finding community online, and really just sharing what I call joy and rain is synonymous with the highs and lows of motherhood. And so that's what my blog is
Mhm.
all about. Um, I'm going to be doing more writing. I'm planning to bring my Finding Your Joy, Sharing Your Ring series back in January of next year. So, yeah, follow me, like the page, and look forward
Yeah.
to, more lives coming in the future. Maybe I can get Mona-Lee on there. We can talk all things motherhood.
Listen, I know I survived 15 years by God's grace. So, I mean, it hasn't been long as some, but I
So you got
had this
something to
kind of when I
share
was,
for my boy
yep,
moms
I
out
had this
there.
kind of when I was 20, 19, 20, somewhere along the line. So I didn't know what I was doing at any point. So happy to join at any
Oh
time. And
yeah.
joining was something that God gave you a while ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
See?
Go ahead and put me out there. Gave it to me when I had one child. I had an idea
Yeah.
about starting a blog, and I was gonna call the blog. Look, I had a name for the blog and everything. I was gonna call it R&R because I named my daughter Reagan. And so Rashida and Reagan, R&R, that was gonna be the name of my blog. And I
Hmm.
sat on it for, how old is Journey? At least 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
Journey's two. My baby is two. So I sat on it for at least 2 years. But like we said, if you won't sit and be still, the pandemic made us all be still. So when
Yep.
I, didn't have the time to just be busy and be elsewhere and be focusing on other things, I came back to my blog at a time where I really needed to just kind of express my feelings with the kids being home all day. So that's a prime example of just, take the leap, seize the moment, do
Yeah.
whatever is deposited in your spirit to do, because
To
I can
do.
almost guarantee it's a great thing. It's a great idea. You just got to take the leap and do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so very much, Rashida, my sister
Thank
friend.
you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Yes, I think
Thank you
it's
so much.
great. Absolutely. For us to be able to come together in this space, for you to share your own leap story. We all have leap stories. I think we're gonna have, leap stories for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's not something that's really, moving you forward, then that's an opportunity for you to sort of reassess where you are and what's going on. So thank you so very much. What's your social media? I don't know if you mentioned your social media handle. I know you said Joy and Rain, but it's
Oh, yep.
Joy.
So it's joy underscore and rain.
Okay, Joy underscore and Rain. So
Yep.
please go and follow her. The content is really, really good. Even as someone that has an older child, it reminds me because sometimes when I mean, I haven't been around the block a long time, but you just get so used to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So even,
It
I had
brings
to
you back to those
remind
younger
you about
years.
a lot of things sometimes too. So your content is very, very helpful and especially helpful for women that are in our age group and especially Black women as well too. So thank you so much for sharing your content and definitely look forward to all that you have. For those of you who have joined us, those of you who are watching on the replay, thank you so very much. Make sure that you like, that you comment, that you share this information. We don't want to hoard anything in this season with what
No.
God is doing. We want everybody to know. For those of you who have joined me for the first time, thank you all so much. Please go and follow my page, Mona-Lee Belizaire, my whole name. And then also you can check out my website at monaleebelizaire.com. I would love to work with you if you are looking for the opportunities to move from where you are to where you want to be. Rashida, thank you so much again. And
Thank
I
you
look
for
forward to
having
supporting
me.
you. Absolutely. It was a
And thank
great
you all for joining.
Yes, thank you all so much for joining. Make sure you follow her, Joy underscore and Rain. Thanks again,
Yep.
Rashida. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Bye.